Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So when it comes to setting your goals, a lot of business owners, founders default to a revenue number to express their goals and to measure their goals. And that's not wrong, but it is superficial in some senses if you don't have a why behind that revenue target, but also if you don't have a how. So when it comes to your actual goals, having some type of revenue target is great, but what's even more valuable is if you can break that down even further into the drivers and into the ways that that's going to happen. The shorter term targets that you have to hit to make sure that's going to be hit, right? So if you're training for a marathon, the goal is to complete a marathon. However, if you're just thinking, my goal is to complete a marathon, so what does that mean? What do you have to do to ensure that you achieve that goal? Well, you probably have to train a hell of a lot, right? So now we have to backtrack into maybe the 3 to 6 months before that event and say, what do I need to be doing daily, weekly, monthly in order to ensure my success, right? We don't go into an Olympic event, a marathon, anything like that, unprepared. And yes, there is one culminating event in this type of scenario, but when it comes to saying, I want to increase my revenue by $10,000 per month by the end of the year consistently, right? Now let's do the same thing. Let's break it down. What would you have to do daily, weekly, monthly in order for that to happen? And that involves understanding what we call drivers. That involves understanding, how do my actions impact that outcome? And this sounds so simple. It sounds so simple, but we overlook the simplicity trying to get a little fancy. Or if we say we want to be more ambitious, we get high off the ambition of, I'm going to go do this thing. Well, how are you going to do that? And it will involve a lot of mundane stuff. It will, because the mundane is where the magic happens. So what I mean is, if you want to hit those 10K per month revenue growth targets, here's what you got to do, right? Let's use an example. You want to sell 10 $1,000 products or services, right? So if you're going to do that, you want to sell 10 of something. And let's say you are primarily getting traffic and conversions from your email list. Let's say they buy your thing off the email list. So if your email list is converting at, say, 1%, okay, this is where we do a little bit of math. But if you need to sell, come back with me here. You need to sell 10 of your product per month. If it's $1,000 each, right? 10 per month. Now it could mean, by the way, 10 of a recurring $1,000 a month thing, which would be even better because that means you only have to sell 10 of it. So if that were the case, right, whether it be per month or in general, if you want to sell 10 of something and you're converting at a 1% success rate, then really you have to have 1,000 solid leads. 1,000 solid leads will then convert to 10 through email, right? So if you need to add 1,000 people to your email list, and by the way, it is this simple. If you understand your metrics and you know what your email list is converting at, or your Facebook ads are converting at, or your podcast appearances, whatever your client acquisition strategy is, whatever is the most productive way of getting new clients. Number one, you have to identify that. Number two, you have to figure out the rate of conversion from that source. And then you have to put enough into the system where it pops out the right number of clients. So in order to predict the outcome of this, like I said, you have to add 1,000 people to your email list. Okay, then the next question, because that's not something you have control over. So what we're doing in each step of this, by the way, is converting something we don't have control over into something we have control over. So right now, today, I don't have control over turning a dial, waving a magic wand, and magically having 10K a month appear in my bank account. So what do I have to do, and how do I bring this down to something I can control? Number one is figure out the top lead source. Number two is put the right number of inputs through that source that will convert. So that will be 1,000. The next question is, how do I get 1,000 people on my email list? How many podcasts do I have to go on? How many, engaging followers do I have to have, or whatever it is? How many opt-ins do I have to produce, or how can I market my opt-in to get this many people in? How do I create like a irresistible, crazy good email opt-in that like people go, I cannot believe she's giving this away for free? How could I do that and add 1,000 people to my email list this month? It's very possible. It is very possible. Now, what you want to do is then figure out from that example, I need to add 1,000 people to my email list. This is my best source. Let's say it's going on social media and sharing opt-ins. So now you're sharing opt-ins. Maybe you're even putting some ad spend towards your opt-in on social media and getting those 1,000 people in. So really what your goal becomes, dissecting from the marathon down to the daily training, what will lead to a 10K growth per month in your revenue is actually mention one of my opt-ins daily on social media. That might be your new goal. If I mention an opt-in daily on social media, on average, I will have 100 people, 50 people, whatever it is, per day sign up for my opt-in. And if that's not the best source, you can find other ways, right? You could do the ads, you could do other things, right? But this is just one example taken all the way through to figure out driver layers of how can I make that happen? Then how can I make that happen? Then how can I make that happen? And that is where you can get goals that really move the needle and move you forward. Because if you are training for the marathon, even if the marathon gets rained out, even if, you reach that point and you've done all the training and you don't finish the marathon, you still trained for it and everything was pointing at that is exactly what result you would have gotten. Now, if you train for a marathon and then you don't finish it, do you walk away the next day starting from zero? No. You just trained for a damn marathon. You are of the physical strength, capacity, endurance, power to do that again. Your body is capable. You've created new capabilities. So when we talk about these revenue targets, we're talking about the behaviors you can instill to elevate how you perform in your business little by little. And setting these targets, giving yourself a scorecard in a sense, is so important on the things that are not necessarily bottom line dollars. Those are helpful. And that's what I specialize in, is helping you with your financial metrics and how your actions are impacting your financials. But if you wanted to empower yourself to then take your goals, go back and figure out what's actually driving this stuff, it can be as simple as scorecarding how you're spending your time. You could be actually journaling. I think journaling is just kind of written scorecarding. This is how I treat it each week. I actually look at a week-long reflection on Friday. How did I communicate this week? If I'm working on that, how did I show up for my clients this week? Did I get everything done? How was my productivity, right? You can create dimensions for yourself on things like this. Did I show up every day and talk about an opt-in, right? In my example. And if you didn't, and then you realize when you look back and you did not achieve that revenue target, you did not achieve the lead generation target, you did not achieve these things, you can look back at your calendar, look back at your journal and go, oh, that's why. I skipped a lot of days. I didn't really act consistently. I wasn't congruent. And be honest with yourself, because we all feel like we're putting forth our best effort. We all feel like we're doing our best. But it's really hard when, even though it feels like you're doing your best, there might be more that you could do. And maybe the goal is set too aggressively. And maybe we have to recalibrate. So when you can take an ambitious goal, you can break it down and you can convert it into daily bite-sized habits. Reflect on that. Take a look at it and say, am I willing to commit to being ultra consistent in that particular thing? And be honest with yourself. If you are not, then we need to find another channel until we find that one thing that you can show up and do consistently that will drive traffic. And that's really what it comes down to, especially in digital marketing. You have to be super consistent and you have to actually move the needle using tools and tactics and strategies that are actually going to drive that result. And it's not just about some, oh, I want to bring in 10K a month more, so putting all my eggs in one basket and hoping that the 10K sale just happens from me doing what I'm already doing. That is like saying, I hope I lose 10 pounds, eating what I'm already eating, and working out the same schedule I currently have. If you change nothing, nothing changes. And again, definition of insanity, right? Same thing, expecting a different result. It ain't going to happen. So if you're in your business feeling stagnant, feeling like your revenue is just kind of plateauing, feeling like you're chasing and running to nowhere, number one, give yourself a break, sit down and reflect, and start really prioritizing how you're spending your time. Focus on the drivers. Focus on the things that really matter, that push your mission forward, and cut out some distractions. These revenue drivers that can really move the needle are smaller and more mundane than you think. It's showing up on social media. It is sending an email. It is sending a DM, right? Here's a great one. Sending a DM to an engaged follower once a day. Just saying hello, right? If you're selling in the DMs and you're converting really well there, build relationships a bit more intimately. DM people. It could be pitching a podcast once a week for you to be on, knowing that you're going to get X number of yeses per pitches, right? Break it down. Break it down. Make it measurable. Set a target, realistic target. I'm going to go ahead and say, don't be too ambitious. Don't be too ambitious. If you say, I'm going to pitch 10 podcasts a week, I'm going to send 1,000 emails and I'm going to do it, great. That motivation is going to wane pretty damn fast, like your New Year's resolution that you're going to lose 20 pounds. It ain't going to happen because your emotional passion to that is fleeting. Let's be honest with ourselves. Human nature says that that probably won't happen. I appreciate the motivation, but break it down and just commit to, I'm going to do 2 a week. If you do more, amazing. But break it down to something digestible, break it down to something you can be super consistent at to create a habit around and not burn yourself out. That is where the success lies. So if you're feeling stuck, you're feeling stagnant, take a breath, unpack those goals, and commit to those small actions that are really going to move the needle forward. If you're a business owner who's been listening to this show, but you want a little bit more personalized advice and you want to pick my brain on your business and get your own financial strategy in place, well, I'm excited to announce that I'm now offering CFO Power Sessions for business owners who want help translating what their numbers are trying to tell them, but don't necessarily want the support of an ongoing fractional CFO. If you're interested, submit a request using the link in the show notes. I only accept a limited number of spots per month, so make sure you jump on it and submit right now. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.